And you don't get starstruck on the red carpet?
No. I mean, there's moments. It's always weird people. Like, because when you're doing it, you're so, again, like I said, it's like you're getting the sound bites. So you're like, oh, here's Billie Eilish. I need to ask her this. Okay, great. How am I going to do that? I'm going to interact. I'm listening. I'm watching who's coming else down the carpet that I need to make sure to wrap this. You know, there's so much going on in your head. So it's more about like getting the sound bite. But like I'll get starstruck about weird people. I mean, obviously like the Beyoncés and Rihannas of the world, like that's like an energy that you see and you're like, okay, that's star power. But like for me, it's like always random people like someone I grew up watching on a TV show, like Full House. Like I remember the first time I like interviewed Candace Cameron Bure, who was DJ Tanner. I was like, oh my gosh. It was early on in my career, but I was so starstruck because I grew up watching that show. So it's like weird ones.
See? But you know what's funny? It just happens organically. Every person on this podcast, obviously it's a dating podcast, so it's mostly dating people, has met their partner on dating apps.
I was like against it. Not against that, but I was just like, this is cheesy. Like I'm so social. I'm out at events every night. I'm going to festivals, this, that. Like I was like, I don't need to do these. Like, you know, that was sort of the mindset at first, right?
100%.
And then during the pandemic, I was like, whatever, this is just the way of the world. And
it is. And I think the pandemic kind of made it even more prevalent just in the fact that we were locked inside our houses. And even if you are you're a social butterfly, you were forced to kind of like seek connection in a virtual way.
Totally.
But it's also just like with the times, like we're so technologically based as a society now. And even if you are out and about, when you get home, you're just kind of like, I wonder who's there. I wonder what's going on.
I'm bored.
Yeah, exactly. What app
did you meet your partner on?
Raya.
Right. Oh, wow. So you know what's
Which
funny?
is like the percentage there.
We always talk about that because
question.
A lot of people like to give us unsolicited feedback, which I love and adore. And they're usually like, you need more quality men on the app. And I'm like, okay, like that's a great, unique perspective.
But also what marks quality?
Yeah, like
what's quality?
Exactly. So they're usually saying like good looking guy. So I'm like, okay, you could probably find that on Raya. But then
they're flaky. And it's like models, DJs. Like it was like the
right. So as I talk to them, like you'll go on Raya, you'll meet these quality people, not connect with them, and be like, I hate dating apps, and then
come back
stuck at square one.
Right.
So it's like okay.
Right.
But it's interesting that you
might be the first success story I've ever heard from Raya.
Yeah, a year and a half. Just moved in together.
Wow, nice.
I know.
Well, this is going to be one of my questions, but I'm so glad that we've just kind of got that out of the way already to begin with. There you go, a year and a half.
Yeah.
Congratulate. How do you see it?
Thank you.
Progressing.
Oh yeah, he's definitely my guy. You know.
Nice.
Isn't that such a beautiful feeling?
It's funny that I'm so not. We can talk about this, but I'm like so not that girl that was ever like. I actually was. I was single for a while, and I've dated a lot, like done the dating apps, like all of them, and I've never been that girl that was like, like when I know, I'll know. Like I always thought that was like, I was like, that seems like, you know, because like you meet people, you have connections, but like I never was like, I'm sold on this person, and then I like.
She says that about me.
Yeah. She knew. You knew?
But I don't say that about her.
Right.
I think guys are different.
Guys are different.
Yeah.
So rude. No, I know on our first date, I
have a theory about that, actually, why it's different for guys.
Why? What's your theory?
Can we say it now?
Well, so
we kind of already
doing,
started anyway.
We already did? Okay.
So the beauty of our podcast is it's very informal.
Cool.
Very
Love
open.
that.
We do have a formal introduction, but we're kind of playing with it where it's like, it breaks up the organic flow.
Right. I like
so
that
like, I'm
too.
sure at some point we'll get into the formal introduction of you, but yeah, we're rolling. So.
How would
fine.
we say it, ladies and gentlemen? This is Chelsea Briggs.
Hello.
On the podcast today, we're so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
My theory?
Yeah, the theory.
So I think that women fall in love with men the more like quality time they spend with them, the more, you know, connection they have with them, the intimate moments. Like that's when women are like, okay, this is my person, whatever. That's when they fall in love. I think men fall in love when they're actually not with them and when they have a chance to miss them. So I think the space. So like the minute, like for guys, they have to like, you know, they say like women that are like naggy or like desperate, like guys, it's
clingy.
Yeah. It's like guys need to like figure it out themselves. So I think it's like in the moments when they're away and they're like, they think of that woman, whoever, and they're like, oh, I miss her. And that's like when I think they start realizing it themselves.
I feel like he would really agree with what you're saying.
100% agree. And I never really thought about it in that way, but I definitely agree. Like even, you know, when you go on a date with somebody, you know what your agenda is going to that date, whether it's like, okay, there's a potential to be serious with this person or it's just for fun. But even if it is just for fun or you know it's going nowhere, if that person plays hard to get in some type of way, it's super attractive. It's like,
Right.
but why are you not interested in me?
Right.
Like, why?
It's a challenge.
Yeah. And it's just like, even though it's not going anywhere, I still want to know what about me that you're not reaching out? Why? Like, how busy are you? How slow are you?
But is it, but as I say, is it like not the fact that they're like, oh, I'm not talking to you and you wonder why? It's more so like that they're so busy and like fulfilled and like
the mystique.
full in their own life that
Yeah,
they're kind of like, well, this is nice, but this person is like, it's not on high on my priority
I think
list.
it's the most attractive thing about anybody is mystique.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Why are you busy?
You have your own stuff going on.
I think it's so cool, so attractive.
Yeah, I had that. It was funny because I think I've heard that now since, that sort of theory, but I instinctively came up with that with my boyfriend, my now boyfriend, because I remember knowing that I knew right away that he was my guy. And I actually said to him at one point, I think this was like 3 months in, I said to him, I know you're my guy. I know you're my person. And it's okay if you don't know now, because I know you will. And it was like, I've never been that like confident, but I just like knew. But I instinctively remember thinking that like because he travels for work, and so he'll go away once a week. And I remember him being away and being like, I'm just gonna like let him be, like let him have his time, let him have his space, and I'm just gonna go on with my life. I think that's what you need to do. You need to continue doing your routine, continue doing the things that like make you happy and independent.
Yeah, when we actually broke up for a while because
4 months, 3 months, 4 months, yeah.
And all of this happened, and she was like posting on Instagram and like working out and like going to all these cool parties. And I was like,
living my life.
I was like, shit, she's so cool. And like, I don't know what she's doing.
Were you like, is he watching?
I think the first, like literally, and I will be honest, I think the first month I was, but then after that I was like, you know what? Like it truly, this is my time. And kind of going back to what you were saying before, it's like, this is my time to really focus on myself.
Right.
Like regardless of what happens, like I love him. In my mind's eye, he was my person, but maybe he's not. So let me just focus on myself, build myself back up.
Right.
Go and do all the coolest fucking shit that I like to do.
That's right.
And then if it's meant to be, it will be.
Right.
And I think it was because I really turned inward and I went, nah, I'm just going to live my life the way that I want to. Then he was like,
yeah, I mean, men are stupidly ego-based. It's like, oh, you need me? All right. Well, I'm going to run with that.
I have options.
Yeah.
But I find it also really interesting if, on the flip side, like throughout dating, that's the way. But like in like a marriage, I'm sure you can attest to this. It's like having your partner need you and rely on you and lean on you is actually a really beautiful and attractive thing. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, once you marry somebody, it's totally different.
But that's what I'm saying. So I think it's very interesting, the dichotomy between those two things. So the difference between them.
I'm not at the marriage part yet, but I'll
if you have
I'll
any
check
questions,
back in.
let
Get
us
some advice
know.
from you guys.
We're always here for it. Okay, first of all, let's open these drinks because I'm so.
So your drink of choice was...
A Tequila espresso martini.
Yes.
We got them made at Gracias Madre.
Okay,
which is like a
love
delicious-
Gracias.
Me too.
Ooh.
Oh my god!
Wait, this actually is an espresso martini?
I think so, except it's not creamy.
Tequila espresso martini.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's just.
Have you ever had one?
I've had a vodka one, but I've never had
No.
it. But it's not creamy. Isn't it supposed to be creamy? Or is it just coffee and tequila?
I don't know. It
Cheers.
It tastes like my two favorite things. Coffee and
We're all
tequila.
going to be like buzzed up.
Literally.
On caffeine.
One time. So I would say 50% of the guests choose alcohol. 60 maybe.
Oh.
Only one time. And we only get 3 drinks.
Okay.
It's like one for each person.
Right. Boring. I'm just kidding.
one episode we got 4 drinks, so we had an extra drink or 2, and my old co-host didn't drink, so there was 3 extra drinks. And halfway through the podcast, like I wasn't paying attention, our guest was just acting a little off.
Oh no.
So we were like looking at each other like, what's going on? We looked. She had started stashing the drinks behind her.
No.
She was like
Shit-faced.
3 margaritas deep,
Little.
and it was funny because if you watch the podcast, it started off so normal,
Right.
and then it just goes haywire, and we're like, "Whoa, she's wrecked."
That's a great episode, though,
was
right
great.
there.
Really, she's little as well. She's tall, but she's little. So it's just like it went
Right.
straight through her. But honestly, one of the more entertaining episodes
Right.
just because she was like, fuck this shit. Like,
Yeah,
she was literally.
she's like,
No
"Fuck
hold-
my ex, he's a fucking like just."
No, holding back. I love that.
It's hilarious, but I feel like we're going to be so caffeinated from this. There's no
sorry,
chance.
guys.
No, don't be
love
sorry at all.
No one's sleeping tonight.
I actually love an opportunity to drink something different. So here we are.
Yeah.
All right. I love that we're talking about dating, but let's take it back a little bit and talk about you first, and then we can kind of get into the depths of dating again.
Right.
So I want to know a little bit and share with our listeners a little bit about your journey and how you ventured into the entertainment industry.
Yeah. I mean, in high school, I knew I wanted to go into like hosting, producing. I would do like the morning announcements, and I just loved doing it, even though my teachers were like, "You're too peppy" in the morning. But, and then I knew I went to New York and I was like, I'm going to intern at MTV. That's like what I wanted to do. That was like, and so when I went to college, I chose broadcasting as my major. Ended up interning at MTV, and then came out to LA. I've been in LA like 16 years, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, you beat me.
What are you?
12.
Okay, but we're up there. But you're past the 10 mark.
Fucking solid.
I know. That means you're
past
true.
a decade, then you're true blue
So true.
LA person, yeah.
And then moved to LA and was doing production stuff, working at MTV, whatever. And then I knew I wanted to do more on camera stuff, which, it's tough out here. You have to kind of make your own way. And so I started Hollywire, which was YouTube. It was kind of like it was in 2009, I want to say. So it was like kind of the beginning of, YouTube had been around for a while, but kind of the beginning in a sense. Like Hollywire was sort of one of the first channels that was like hosted by a personality, but giving like entertainment news and music news. And so, and my big thing was like, it's always been, I love music and discovering new artists. And so I would, because I couldn't get like the big artists at the time, I'd reach out to artists that I knew were going to blow up in the next 3 to 5 years. So like smart. Then I'd get interviews with them.
Wait, so what is Hollywire?
So Hollywire, it's like a teen pop culture outlet. Now it's kind of turned more influencer based because I sold it a handful of years ago. But it was basically like a YouTube channel website. And I would do daily videos. I had like series too that I would do, but posted like every day, a few videos a day, 3 to 5 videos a day.
So you're like ahead of the curve of this content
consistency.
World.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would just post about stuff I loved. And it was like, at the time One Direction was big. And so I was kind of one of the first outlets to cover One Direction in the US. I know.
Harry Styles.
Love.
Good job, babe.
He's obsessed. Good job. Any other ones? You know any other?
Of the One Direction people?
Niall. Do you know Niall?
Don't give me
Zayn.
hints.
I heard of Zayn.
Were you a Directioner?
My sister was.
Okay.
Absolutely loved and adored them. Couldn't get enough of them. And then by proxy, listen, I have a good bop to their songs, even to this day. In the car, I like put it on and scream in Joe's face, like singing the song.
Who do you
really
like?
fun.
Jonas Brothers, right?
Oh, I could go. Yeah. I mean, like, again, but that was kind of like me when I was growing up as a Jonas Brothers.
Right.
So it's just nostalgia.
Totally.
Plus, they're back now.
Right.
So now, sometimes I like to get too entrepreneurial, and I love the fact that you started Hollywire. So what was that road like, building that and like obviously selling it?
Yeah. I mean, it was funny. Like I like sometimes look back on that, like who I was then, this like fearless, when you first moved to LA, you're just like, I'll do whatever. I'm fearless, whatever. And I was just really determined, and I just had a vision and went with it, and ended up like it really quickly built. Like I think within the first, I want to say like a few months, we were like at 1 million, which like then was a lot.
Subscribers?
Yeah, which then was a lot.
Whoa.
Which now
That's
it's like
still a lot.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah.
Well, you look at like TikTok stars that have like 85 million, or Instagram.
But YouTube subscribers, they're more valuable.
Having 1 million is more common nowadays. It's still just as impressive, but it's just because it's more common that it's perhaps not like as astounding as back in the day when
if we had 1 million subscribers.
Oh no, you'd be so happy.
Go through the roof.
Hey, let's do it. Let's manifest that. But yeah, so then just was consistent with it, grew really fast. And because I was interviewing these artists that they actually ended up blowing up really quickly. Like I was one of the first people to interview Ed Sheeran in the US, Imagine Dragons. I was their very first interview ever at South by Southwest.
She's such a big Ed Sheeran
He's
fan.
my favorite. He's my favorite.
Is he just as beautiful?
The best. The sweetest. Like the thing that's cool about him, and I've gotten this, and it's cool because I built relationships with artists because I was kind of one of the first people that supported them. And Ed, the first time I met him, he's like, "You're Chelsea, the Hollywire Hotman," and he like knew like about the show, and he's like, "Thanks for covering my stuff." Like, and then still to this day, like if I see him on a red carpet and he's like not doing interviews, he'll run up to me and give me a hug and like do an interview. Like he's a really just like the most genuine, down to earth guy. Never changed.
Friggin' knew it. I absolutely knew that he would be. He just comes off. I followed him from the A-Team days.
Oh yeah,
like when it was when he was
Lego
starting
House
to do
girl.
those. Oh my god, when he's doing those rounds, and I was like, who was this beautiful ginger man? And I was maintained that like I would love to marry him, but like not in a sexual way, just in a way of like, can you please write me songs and just be my best friend?
Yeah, he was cool. And then like I would see him backstage at like, I remember one time I was at our iHeartRadio festival doing interviews, but it was like in between whatever sets, and he came back and saw me, and he was like walking with a big crew and saw me. He's like, Chelsea, and he came over, stood and talked to me for like 20 minutes. Like, he's just like cool, you know, like left his like cool crew.
You have no idea how much joy this brings me. Like, literally, I could have like tears pricking in my back of my eyes because I just have so much admiration for him as a human being.
That's what's special about, like, because, you know, they say never meet your idols, and like there's some you meet and you're just like, oh, that stinks. But like, yeah, he's definitely one that's like a good one. So you have a good
one day
measure of
manifesting it.
Yeah,
so fucking hard.
Let's get him on the show.
I literally would just go like this the entire time. I'd just be like staring at him, smiling like a fucking creepazoid. But oh my god!
But
what insights or like advice would you give to perhaps like fellow entrepreneurs or people in the same space that you learned along the way?
Well, it's hard because I feel like things have changed a lot since then, you know? But I think like the word that comes up that I already kind of said, but consistency, right? So it's like, I remember I was just really disciplined. I'd get up at like 5 a.m. every day, get to the studio, and like no matter what, I remember I'd be exhausted, but I was like, you know, obviously seeing the growth, but I would just do the videos, and like the consistency I think was a really big thing. So I think being consistent with my friend just had a quote yesterday, actually. We were doing like a moon, this sounds so wooey, and I live in like Venice now, so this is funny, but I was doing like a new moon ceremony because there was a full moon yesterday. But she told me this quote that it was like, I'm going to mess it up, but it's like behind,
Go for
it's
it.
like,
You got it. Paraphrase
I know,
it.
hold on, let me think for a second. It's behind consistency is like all my dreams coming true or something. Or it's like the step behind consistency, basically being consistent. Be consistent, your dreams will come true, kind of thing.
Goes hand in hand with manifestation almost.
Yeah, but and so I think that was the biggest thing, and also just like do what you like, what your vision is, go for it, and don't let other people like deter you from it. You know.
I think you and Joe probably have that in common, just in that not only the consistency level, but also the fact that I'm sure there were a lot of people that had a laugh at him and you when you were like, I'm going to create this thing, or I'm going to create this dating app, and then you proved
Yeah, and
wrong.
I think we were listening to Jay Shetty, and he has like a lot of great people on his podcast. And what was her name?
I couldn't tell you, but she
runs
Skims.
Okay, yeah.
But
wait, Kim? Or no, but it's like her.
No, it's like
CEO
one of the
COO or something. Yeah.
But yeah, like people think everything's so hard, but if you just consistent for 6 months, you're gonna get really good at it.
Totally.
And whatever happens after that. But you have to be consistent.
Totally.
And I think like in today's world, there's like people who say they're entrepreneurs, when if you have just that vision, it's pretty easy. Like everybody can have an entrepreneurial vision. It's so easy to be like, I'm going to create a spaceship that goes to Mars and comes back every day. It's like, okay, cool. And then there's people who are doers. And I feel like if you're both, that's great. But if you're more of a doer, you're going to be way ahead of everybody else.
Totally.
And there's not many doers in the world. Even people who we see in the app or people that we meet that are working on things, they're not really doing.
Right.
And like that, I see that a lot in LA actually. There's so many people with ideas. I meet so many business consultants. And I'm like, but what did you do?
Right.
Like you're advising me, but what did you do?
Right.
Oh, nothing. I just advised. It's like, okay. I could advise you all day.
Right.
What is that saying? Those who can't do, teach.
Right.
I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Guess you got to have the teachers too, though.
Well, you definitely have to have the teachers,
But yeah.
then I think it's in that kind of mind frame of probably coming from a place of actually doing, where you go, why do I need to be advised by someone who hasn't done it themselves?
Right.
Yeah.
Shouldn't get advice from anybody that hasn't done something themselves. I'm a believer in that, at least. All right, so you have guest hosted for various platforms like MTV News, VH1. You also have a morning radio show, which I did not know until 5 minutes ago, which I love that. How do you adapt your hosting style to different audiences and platforms, or do you?
I mean, I don't know that I guess it depends. I mean, look, it's like it's not really like adapt your personality. I feel like it's more adapt like how you're going about presenting. So meaning like if you're doing a red carpet, you're getting a soundbite. So it's more about like that kind of thing, but you're still being yourself. With radio, it's like, that was one thing I learned with radio when I started doing it, was like, when you tell a story, you have to tell it in a certain way, which you don't really, it's funny now I realize when I tell stories, sometimes I'll tell it in a radio way, but it's like, you got to hook them. You got to hook them with the first like sentence. And then like, you know, it's.
What's the hook? What's the hook sentence?
Like, I remember this one I did where I went to Coachella. I don't know, this one sticks out in my head, but it was like, when we come back, like, let me tell you about how I saved what was it? Like I saved Coachella, and it was like all about how I like ended up tackling down this person who was stealing people's phones. But
how heroic of you. Beautiful.
But anyways, but yeah.
No, so things like that. Okay, that makes sense.
So it's more about like the mechanics of it. I don't feel like it's so much like the personality of it, but the mechanics.
The mechanics.
And does it come easy to you? Because I feel like, okay, for us, we have an app and like we do the podcast because it's really fun and like, we get to build relationships with really cool people like yourself. But we're like learning how to host because like we don't have it in us, and you know it's something new. For you, is it like ingrained in you where you're just so excited and so second nature, or is it like tough?
I would say so. I mean, there's always tough points, right? But I also think like you get nerves and overthink things because you really care. So I feel like I've always been that way no matter what. But yeah, I would say so for the most part. But it's also like sometimes you nail it, sometimes you don't. And that's just like how it goes, you know?
Yeah, not to put too much pressure on yourself in the situation.
Sometimes you do a break and you're like, oh, that was rough, you know? And sometimes you do an interview and you're like awkward and you just have an off day and that just happens too, you know? So I've learned to have some grace with myself. But
beautiful though.
But yeah, but like for sure, I think it's definitely, I feel like there is a muscle there that like I hadn't done a red carpet in a minute and I just did one a couple weeks ago and I was like, oh, I'm just back on, you know, you just like
riding a bike.
Yeah.
And you don't get starstruck on the red carpet?
No. I mean, there's moments. It's always weird people. Like, because when you're doing it, you're so, again, like I said, it's like you're getting the sound bites. So you're like, oh, here's Billie Eilish. I need to ask her this. Okay, great. How am I going to do that? I'm going to interact. I'm listening. I'm watching who's coming else down the carpet that I need to make sure to wrap this. You know, there's so much going on in your head. So it's more about like getting the sound bite. But like I'll get starstruck about weird people. I mean, obviously like the Beyoncés and Rihannas of the world, like that's like an energy that you see and you're like, oh, okay, that's star power. But like for me, it's like always random people, like someone I grew up watching on a TV show, like Full House. Like I remember the first time I like interviewed Candace Cameron Bure, who's DJ Tanner. I was like, oh my gosh, it was early on in my career, but I was so starstruck because I grew up watching that show. So it's like weird ones, you know? But yeah, you just kind of learn they're just people, I guess. You know?
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what you learn is the fact that they're just people, but they just do really fanciful jobs. And I'm sure there's people out there who think the same thing about you, being like, oh my God, Chelsea Briggs. But then it's just like, you're just a lovely, I hate to say normal because nobody's normal, but you know what I mean? Just like a human.
Yeah, or you guys, the podcast hosts. People are probably starstruck by you guys.
Well, she has shown me into that world.
Yeah.
Because like she was a Wilhelmina model. So like when I came here, I was like, oh man, this is so cool. This is LA. Like they're so-and-so, they're so-and-so. And then slowly over, like she was so cool that she didn't really say anything. And then over time she's like, yeah, she's like, I know him. And she's like, yeah, I'm friends with him. And then I'm like, oh shit, like you're actually ingrained with those people, but it's cool because you don't care.
Well,
you know?
I think that's part of the reason why I'm friends with a lot of people is the fact that they know that I don't care. I'm like, if you're a nice human being, you treat me well, you're a good friend, then great, we'll be good friends. I don't give a fuck what you do for a living.
Yep.
And that doesn't have any impact on the way that our friendship functions.
Right.
And I'm sure you think the same thing.
Totally.
Okay, so out of obviously bar the delicious Ed Sheeran, out of all of your like the interviews that you've ever done, has there been like a standout favorite and or a standout horrible one? Although I feel like it's controversial to say.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I do kind of change my answer sometimes when I answer this because it's always kind of different. But like, I'll just name a couple of my favorites. Like Billie Eilish is one of my favorite people. She's the dopest. I've been interviewing her since like day one, and she's never changed. Like every time I talk to her, she'll like make a comment about like farting. Like she's just like, I'm like, you're the biggest star in the world. And you talk like she's just cool, and like I'm like, please never change.
I loved,
but she's dope.
Just to interrupt you there because I want to continue to hear it, but I loved the fact that when she came out with her diagnosis about Tourette syndrome. My brother has Tourette's.
Oh yeah.
And so it was just so beautiful to see someone who was so public, or in the public eye, talk about something that I feel like is not talked about a lot. So I loved her before that, but it made me that little bit more, my heart went out to her.
She really represents the generation well. I feel like she's like doing big things for them, just being so vulnerable and real, and talking about her anxiety and all that stuff too. But she's great. She's one of my favorite people. I always like walk away from an interview with her and be like, that was fun. That was great. You know, she always gives me a big hug. She's just sweet. I did an interview a couple years ago with DJ Khaled, which is funny to say, but I like spent a whole day at his house in Miami, and we like chilled for like hours. And I really had a good time, and I respect him because he's such a character. Like you see him and he's like, oh, we the best, blah, blah, blah. But he is that person. Like, he's not putting on a show. Like, he's like, we're in his living room and he's like, I'm the best, bless up. And I'm like, DJ Khaled. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is you. Like, you're not, like, I respect that. Yeah. But that was just like a really special shoot because we spent all day together. His kids are running around, like his pool boys. Like, it was just, that was a fun day. I interviewed Madonna, which was like a big moment.
Wow.
Dolly Parton's great. I know.
Was this, the Thanksgiving
Oh,
Cowboys
yeah.
game?
She's in her
Oh, yeah, I
70s
saw
and she
that.
just looked
78.
phenomenal.
I mean, she's just the sweetest. She's like the most, she's just, you just want to like hug her.
And then you just see the things that she does behind the scenes, like why she started Dollywood.
Right.
Just like the more and more I read up on her, the more and more I'm like, you just have not only the biggest boobs in the world, but the biggest heart.
But she also did so much for music. People don't realize she, for women in music, like she fought for her right to get like, you know, her portion of songs and not get it taken. She's just a powerhouse and she's dope. Like when I interviewed her, she like had her her hand on my waist the whole time. And I was like, oh my God, Dolly.
I'm being touched by
Are we
Dolly Parton
BFFs?
right now.
What's happening?
That's awesome.
But yeah,
I love
she's
that.
sweet.
I
yeah.
love that so much. All right, so wrap this up. Do you have any like sneak peeks on like upcoming collaborations or things that you're super excited about?
Right now, I was really burnt out for a minute, so I'm sort of taking a step. I'm doing a morning radio show. It's called Slacker Radio. It's like in all Tesla cars. It's like exclusive to Tesla. The station I host a daily show for and a weekly countdown show. But you can also get it on the Live One app. It's for Live One and Slacker.
Right.
So yeah, so that's my
Everybody go and watch it, listen to it right now.
Go listen, come hang out with me.
All right, so we were talking about this earlier, and so we figured out that you and your boyfriend met on a dating app, which is incredible,
did,
Raya,
yes.
which was again wild to us because I don't think we've ever heard a success story from Raya thus far.
Yeah.
So as someone who's deeply involved in the entertainment industry, how do you balance your career and your personal life?
I mean, that's like the question, right? I mean, before I've been with my boyfriend for a year and a half. I was single for probably 6 years before that. Granted, I went through like a really bad breakup, so like needed time to heal and all that stuff. But I part of it was because I was so busy with work and I didn't figure it out. And I was like very much in my masculine, going from shoot to shoot, working 2 full-time jobs. Like it was, you know, I think I'm still figuring it out. I think it's been nice to slow down in the last like year, and really like, cause you know, there was a time when I was missing like weddings and bachelorette parties, and I'm like, look back and I'm like, that's not what life's about. You need to figure out that balance. So it's like in progress. But I think just being more intentional with like the jobs you take, with how you spend your time, who you spend it with. Like, I think that's just been something that I'm continually working on, but I haven't fully figured it out yet.
I mean,
What was
who has?
What was the evolution of the relationship? Obviously, you met on Raya.
Yep.
But I like to get in the weeds with it. How long
do
did
it.
you guys talk on the app before you met?
Here's what's, I think, how I got lucky, because he had just gotten on the app.
Okay.
And so I think I got him early. But the funny thing about it is that, so the week that we actually met, I deleted all my dating apps. Because I was like, I'm just over it. Like,
which ones?
I was on Hinge, Bumble, Raya. Those were my main ones.
Okay. Did your profile differ depending on the
I mean, they're all
app?
kind of different, so you kind of have to,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
You got to like have a little different character with each one.
Tailor it
Well,
towards it.
right. And so the week we met, I deleted all my dating apps. But on Raya, I remember he got my number right away, and I was like, oh, this is different. Texted me right away, and then we were texting for a few weeks trying to make plans. But I was out of town for work, he was out of town, and I kind of forgot about it. And then the week I delete all my dating apps, I was like, it's gonna be summer. I'm just gonna spend my time with my friends and family and travel. He texted me and he's like, hey, by the way, let's go get that drink. Let's do it. And so we met up right away. And it was like pretty instant. Like it's actually kind of a cute story because we met at the Pendry rooftop.
Oh, nice.
Which is a really great date spot.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
What's that place underneath it?
I think
the Brightly.
Oh,
the
right.
Brightly, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And we had a like great chat hang. We had some espresso martinis, tequila.
Nice.
And I had to go he lives in Venice, and I had to go to a event in Venice, and he had a birthday in West Hollywood where I lived at the time. And so we like split ways. And then I went to my event. He's at his party. He texts me. He's like, how's your event? I'm like, kind of lame. How's your party? Kind of lame. He's like, do you want to meet up for a nightcap in Venice since you're there? Like, I'm coming back home or whatever. So we had like 2 dates in one day.
Oh, that's so
2
cool.
dates in one
Yeah,
day.
we had to come back up
Oh,
for
I
a
love
nightcap.
that so much.
And I love the fact that
Great.
your first date was drinks, because like that's what we preach. I'm
Right.
very big on that. It's
It's like an easy,
no stress.
low commitment.
Yeah, and case in point, you had something to do, so it's an
Right.
easy out. And if you really like that person, you can meet up with them later in the night or
Right.
the next day.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
love it.
And
I love how typically it's usually like the next day or, you know, within that week, but you're like, no,
Yeah.
tonight.
Well, it was him that said it,
Love
which was
that.
great. And I was like, all right, I like this guy. He's like, you know,
Yeah.
guy knows what he wants. I appreciate that.
What was
So, yeah.
your what was the expectation like? Like when you're texting somebody before you meet them, you have an expectation. Did he outlive the expectation, or did you set a bar lower? It's like whatever happens, happens.
I was really proud of myself in the last probably like 6 months of dating on dating apps, maybe a little less than that. But I remember hitting a point where I was just like, I'm gonna have no expectations with these dates. I'm just gonna have fun. And like for me, I interview people for a living, so like I actually like love just the connection. And so I would go into the dates and I'd just be like, no expectation, no matter what, I'm gonna make a new friend. I'm gonna learn something new because I'm gonna like learn about this person's life, where they're from, whatever. And that was kind of, I started going into dates like that, and it was just fun. Like that's like my biggest advice to people dating right now. It's just like, just have fun. Like it doesn't need to be, and from each person you learn something, and you never know, like maybe that person's best friend is going to be your future husband. Like you just, I don't know, like thinking about it in that way. It's just like, we're just all humans having a human experience. Like just like meet people and have fun.
Experience. We preach out all the time of the fact that it's like, what is the harm in going out on a first date? How is it going to harm you?
Right.
You go into a public place, so it's kind of like the safety elements done with. And as you said, you might meet a new friend. That person might be a connection to your future husband and wife. Like
Yeah.
it all truly depends.
So I feel like with him, I remember seeing his pictures and being like, I know we're going to be friends. Like I felt like he like went to festivals a lot, which I love music. And like, I just was like, I feel like this guy just seems friendly. Like we're gonna be friends no matter what. That was kind of like my expectation going into it. And then I remember like walking in, and then like as we're talking, I was like impressed. And I remember getting like really nervous all of a sudden. I was like, I don't usually
That's
get
a great
nervous,
sign.
but I remember just being like, why am I nervous? Oh my God, are the things I'm saying making sense right now? Like I just got like flustered a little bit, and then, but I also couldn't tell if he was like, I'm like, is he into me? Like what's happening? Like I was in my head about it. But yeah, so I think definitely exceeded my expectations, but it just felt like super easy and like natural. It was never like, I think that's the best.
Yeah, that's
when
awesome.
you know.
I always, I mean, I could say this now, but I always love going on a first date just till I get to know somebody new.
Right.
But I remember running
It's
into the
just fun.
problem, and then this happened a lot here in LA. And I think that's because there's just not a lot of genuine men in LA.
Right.
But every time I'd go on a date with somebody, I was being so nice and so just engaging, kind of like a friend. And then after the date, I would somehow explain like, hey, I'm not really into this. But they'd be like, but you were so nice and like engaging. You seemed so into me. And I'm like, shit, how do I balance like being so nice and friendly, but also being like,
Do you know what's so messed up about that?
What?
It's because like
Please
you're
tell me.
above like so like other people in LA or guys in LA that like aren't nice. That's like so sad that like girls aren't used to that.
and I think
the bar was set really
I'm
low.
glad you said it because it's not a
Well,
looks
I mean,
thing.
not even that,
Like
but,
there's
like-
so many good looking men in LA.
Right.
But there's not a lot of just genuine nice. I don't even want to say men, people that I've met.
Right.
So when you do meet a nice genuine person, you kind of want to hold on to that as much as
Right.
you can. And yeah, I think I was telling her before I met her, I was like, yeah, every girl I went on a date with wanted like a second, third date with me.
Right.
And I was like, I think it's just because I was
A free dinner.
probably.
Well, that is
probably.
definitely a portion of it.
But yeah, I think it was just
Right.
like I was just being nice, and they weren't
Right.
used to just a guy who's just
So
being nice.
sad.
But then I think it's also to both of your points earlier of the fact that like people are assuming that a first date will lead to marriage always, right? So they're putting so much pressure on themselves to be like first date marriage. And so they would have gone on a date with you and been like, oh my God, this fellow was so nice. He was so
Right.
chivalrous. This could be my husband.
Right.
So of course I'm going to want to, instead of just enjoying the process and going,
Yeah.
this fella's cool. Like this
Right.
might be a new friend, blah, 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 not putting too much pressure in the situation. They immediately dumped all of their expectations onto you and you're kind of like, oh, I was just trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Like, we're having a good time, but also this
Yeah, it's
isn't something
difficult.
that I wanted to lead anywhere.
I remember my thing I remember is that like I'm same way where I'm just like nice and friendly and genuine, and like you go out to dinner with someone, like you send them a text, like I had so much fun meeting you, whatever. And I remember getting this feeling like I felt like these guys thought I was like being clingy or something, and I'm like the opposite, just being nice. I'm like we just had like a connection, but they would like either like ghost you or and it's like, just send me a text back and say, I'm not trying to like be your wife. Like there was that weird expectation too from guys where like, you're like, are we not allowed to like be like just have a nice exchange? Like,
Yeah, I think
I'm not
it's-
trying to get anything from you, but there's also that, I think, you know.
Yeah, there's always
LA's
that,
a weird place.
Exchange of what am I getting from you? What are you getting from me?
Right.
And
especially in a place like Los Angeles.
I think, it's maturity and communication and just, hey, I'm an adult. Like you could.
But it's also
right.
it's also about intention. Like if you had a really great date with, say, use you as an example, you had a really great date with a fella, and you text, hey, had a great night, and they're like, the fuck?
Right.
Like, why are you being so clingy? Like, so what on earth is your problem? You know what I mean? So it's like people just not
Right.
being on the same page with each other, and I think that's like, I mean, even to use us as an example, like he just moved to Los Angeles, right? So everything was fucking shiny.
You got him new too.
I got him new, snatching up, babe. I knew what I was doing. Plus, I dated a lot of absolute lunatics. You know what I mean? Like
same girl, same.
Oh my god, so
The
many.
worst.
And
The stories I have.
I literally, because I was dating this fella casually for like 3 months, but he was an absolute fucking Looney Tune.
Oh yeah.
And I broke up with him, or kind of like ended things with him on the Friday and went out on a date with him on the Sunday. So I was literally backing off this absolute lunatics where I was like, oh my God, this fella's really lovely. But I also know that we felt the exact same thing.
Right.
Even though we weren't necessarily in the same like headspace of like, I knew that I was like wanting to date to be able to be in a serious relationship or marriage. He was like, I've just got to LA. Everything's very shiny. I want to date around. We felt the same connection with each other. And that in turn, I think, allowed us to be on the same page going forward in terms of like multiple dates,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. Even though we did break up, I think we needed to break up for a reason so we could be in
Appreciate each other.
exactly so we could be in the stance. I always like asking people this because you said that you were on dating apps, and I always find it really fascinating people's answers. So if you could create a dating app feature that doesn't already exist, what would it be and why?
I don't know if this exists because I haven't been on in like a year and a half now, but I think the first thing that comes to mind would be like a group date thing. Is that a thing?
Ooh.
Do we have that?
Is it?
Oh, what is it?
There's a few apps that have that.
Okay.
I think.
Like the idea of being like, I'm with my girlfriends. We're going to go out to, the nice guy tonight. Like, oh, let's see who's on the group date.
There's a company these two women started. It's called Foreplay, and they do a great job, and I give them a lot of credit because I think it is a cool concept.
Right.
But I think it has to be like informal, like the way you explained it, where like you're
Right.
going out with your girlfriends, and it's like, okay, we want to hang out with like either two guys or a group of guys, and it's more fun.
Right.
Because I think about it as like, okay, I'm 33. So if I was single at 33 and I wanted to go on a date and potentially meet somebody,
Right.
there's two issues with me. One, getting 4 people in their early 30s to have the same schedule is like a challenge for me. And then 2 is like, if you have 4 people, how do you know who likes who?
Right.
And like, if you want to get deep in conversation with one person, it's awkward on a first date.
Then you're,
to
like,
have 2 other
fighting,
people.
yeah.
It's just, I don't know. But I think informally the concept is really cool.
Yeah. I just think about like when I was like in my prime single days, I had a group of single women that like were like, let's go to the beach. But like, it's just us and maybe. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Could also like break up friendships if you're fighting over guys. I don't know.
I think there's valid points to everything. Like you said, in the informal way, it'd be really fun. It was just casually being like, oh my God. It's kind of like how when you're out at a bar and you're with your girlfriends and then there's like 4 fellas across the thing. Like, how you going? And you'll come across. But there is the potential. There's a lot of potential for almost like high school level.
But also,
of behavior.
it goes back to your intention. If you have 2 women and 2 men who both on there for the same reason, and the 4 of you want to meet, I think it's a great concept because it also adds a layer of safety, and it also adds a layer of
Ease.
Right.
That's the great word. You know,
Right.
it's just more fun. It's like 4 of us.
Yeah.
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 I love that. Okay, so what's your favorite unconventional date idea that you think more people should try?
Ooh.
I know.
I don't know if this is unconventional, but like my favorite dates, and my boyfriend and I still do this, are just like, I love like sitting on the couch and playing like those card games or question games. That's like,
We love doing that.
that's
too.
like my favorite thing to do.
Like
ever.
We Are Not Strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
it.
those are my favorite. Just sit there and like questions, drink some wine, like just like the like actual connection is my
Are you
favorite.
and your partner competitive? Like if you play board games or anything, because we are. I'm like,
Competitive in styling an apartment.
oh,
Because we have 2 strong opinions for things, but not necessarily in that. Oh, like who gets...
We'll literally play like Scrabble or trivia, and we won't be like seriously arguing with each other. And he was like, "That's not right." Like, and I'll do the same.
We were playing Cards Against Humanity for Thanksgiving with all of our
yeah.
friends, and I was trying to win, and she was getting jokingly mad that I was trying to win, and I was like, "You're so competitive that you're mad that I'm competitive," and all of our friends were just like, "They are crazy."
That's so good.
At least we complimented each other. All right, so what are... I like to ask us this question as well. So what are you... I don't really like the term, but I suppose there's no other like better way to say it. What are your personal kind of like red flags and green flags? when it comes to like a potential partner or a partner in general?
Red flags, definitely if the person doesn't have like close friends, like a close, it doesn't have to be a group, like a, you know, just like good friendships that are below the surface, that aren't like just surface, you know, like deep friendships. I think this could be controversial, but I actually like when guys have friends that are girls too, because I think that it shows that they're like sensitive. And I remember my boyfriend has like a handful of girls that are friends, like genuine close friends. And when we first started dating, he's like, does that bother you? And I was like, it doesn't bother me as long as they're nice to me. The minute any of them are rude, or then I know there's something weird.
Okay. So
then I know there's something weird. There's something going on. They're like, they have a crush, whatever. I'm not cool with. And that's when I might step in and be like, I don't want you to hang out with this person.
That's what I preach. And that's why I say to him all the time. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if you hang out with women all day, every day.
Right.
As long as they are respectful and nice to me, the moment that and because as women, we're so intuitive, right? So I can feel that undercurrent, like even if they're super lovely to him and they're a little cunty towards me. I'm like,
no time for this.
No time for that. Also, I'm not going to, like, as a partner in a relationship, I would advise my husband to not hang out with that person because I think that's a good dynamic for us.
We don't pick up on it. It's easily though.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
So that's why I was telling you, like, you have to trust me. And when I sit there and say, I don't know about that person because of the way that they treat me rather than the way that they treat you.
Right.
So I love that. Yes.
So friends, I like someone who's close to their family. You know, I mean, obviously that's not like but I think that's definitely a green flag. Red flag. We're going back and forth.
I like it.
Red flag. I mean, I guess someone who doesn't like.
Music.
Doesn't like music. Yeah, actually. Oh, I know what one is. What? I'm very passionate about this one. And actually, my ex, that was like a really bad breakup, didn't do this. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, it makes sense. If a guy doesn't dance,
try not be a good dancer.
no, like just like we're gonna be at weddings together.
Oh yeah.
Like if you don't get on the dance floor with me and just like be goofy and have fun and like have a good time. But seriously, think about that. I don't want to do life with you if you can't just like dance through the storm. That's a quote, but like you know what I mean. Like just like dance, like have fun, like let loose. Don't take yourself too seriously. I guess is like a.
I think there were a couple of times like once we were at the Beverly Hills Hotel and we were having like a couple of drinks and like a little nibble and there was a live band there and I was like, get up and dance with me, and he was like, no. I was like,
oh no.
I was like, get up.
I
was like, get up and dance with me. And then he danced with me, and then everybody around us started dancing.
Right.
And it was like at weddings, like anything. Like I'm very much that type of person. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm lanky as hell. Like I will dance and I will look horrible.
I'm not a good dancer at all, but like just like I think there's something about that speaks to more depth to me than like if you can get up and dance and just have fun and like enjoy yourself. Green flag, obviously like loyal, all the things.
Yes.
I've always dated. I think the running through line of guys I've dated, it's always been guys that are like successful, hardworking, but like I think the pit of that is just passionate about what they do or passionate about something, right? So I think that's a very attractive quality to me, whether it's even like surfing or like, you know, reading, whatever. It's like that. I think that's really important to have like you each have your own passions. I think that's special.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I think that we've talked about this a couple of times. It's like when someone's truly like, even though, don't get me wrong, being married to an entrepreneur has its peaks and pitfalls, right? Understanding that he is so passionate about something and pours all of his time and energy into it, like literally from 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. every day. That is one of the more attractive, and there's a lot of attractive qualities about you, darling. But there are a lot of, that's one of the more attractive qualities because it's just such a, I don't know, attractive is like the very minimum of what it is.
Right.
It's hard to kind of like articulate what that feeling
I think
is.
it goes back to what we were saying earlier, is that you're what I want. You're a huge add-on to my life. If you weren't there, I'd be fine because I have so much going on that I'm working on my passion. And I think that's the difference. When you find a partner who's an add-on to your life and also doesn't deter you from your passion, that's when you know it's like someone important.
Right.
Well, that's what do I always say to you? I was like, I want you, but I don't need you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing for not only us to continually do and probably you and your partner, but like every couple is as acknowledging and knowing that like I'm okay by myself.
Right.
I don't want to be by myself.
It's so
I would
powerful.
much rather be with a partner, and I love you and I'd much rather be with you. But at the end of the day, I've got my fucking shit covered.
Totally.
So, you know, and that is such an attractive quality.
Right. That's so funny. My boyfriend's like said that to me. He's like, you don't need me. And I love that. He's like same. It goes both ways. It's great.
Wait, so you said your last boyfriend was a tough breakup. What's so different about your current boyfriend versus your last boyfriend?
I think the biggest thing, there's like, He was Australian. I'm just kidding.
Was he?
I'm so sorry.
God. Wait, was he?
I'm so sorry for my entire country. But also, I will
But
attest to this.
Australian
Where's he
guys are.
You know, Australian fellas are just a different breed to Australian women, right? Like, I've always said that, like, they're beautiful. They're not the sharpest tools in the
Right.
shed, and they're a little bit fucking misogynistic.
Yeah.
Sorry, the greater Australian
Sorry.
male population, but that's fucking true.
There are some good ones too.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know,
Where is he
obviously.
from?
Melbourne.
Oh, Brisbane.
Okay.
Okay, see? Brisbane.
We're fine.
All cool people from Brisbane.
See? Thank you, Joe.
No,
No,
I think you're cool, but
no, he always thinks that Sydney's the
Bris-
coolest, but
I think
Oh,
you're
Sydney's
cool
cool.
because Brisbane is not cool, and like you're forced to be cool.
yeah, you say this now, but you don't say that shit behind doors.
But I think the biggest thing, honestly, as I've looked back, well, I think there's two things, but I think I did a lot of work on myself, like between relationships. Like I really, and like, thank God you look back and that those are the best kind of breakups, right? When that's why I think everyone should experience that kind of heartbreak, even though it's the worst thing in the entire world. But it's like, when it forces you to do things that really make you a better person, and like, you know, forced me to like get into yoga and meditation and like just like do shadow work, like things like that I think made me understand myself more. So I show up in a relationship different. So that's part of it. But I look back on it and like he definitely, like my boyfriend now is he's very deep, he's very articulate, he's very communicative. He does the work too. He goes to therapy as a life coach. Like he's like, and my ex was just like, I look back and I'm like, what did we talk about? Like, you know, like I think it was very surface.
Yeah.
But I also wasn't there either. So like, you know, it's one of those things where I can look back and see how I've evolved, which is
Yeah, I mean,
a
I
cool
think
thing.
that's like a huge growth moment because we always say like, okay, in your relationship that didn't go well, would you have dated yourself?
Right.
And most people do what you did. They look back, and like when I was with her, I was like, would I have dated myself? I'm like,
When
no.
before you
Before
When we
broke up.
broke up,
Oh,
I was
yeah?
like, because I think there's an ego and a part of everybody that's like, I'm the best.
Wait, who broke up with who?
Well, this is the thing. It's like we had broken up with each other and then kind of gotten back together, and broken up with each other and got back together. And I think that last time it was actually him that kind of cut it off because for a multitude of different reasons. But I think it was just the back and forth. The app was on a very big uptick.
Right.
He really needed to focus on what was happening, and he was kind of the one being like, "Listen, we're kind of destroying each other." And I had said that in the months previous to that, so it was. You want to say in a way it's mutual, but he was the one that kind of like really stuck the.
But you probably needed that.
I did.
It's
in
like
a
an
way.
ego check. You know what I mean? But think about it. Like I look back at that too, and I'm like, my ego hurt so bad. It was so like, but like I needed it. I needed it to
It's
like
true. And
to
I
hit
think-
that ground and like.
Yeah, I think when
do
we
the
broke
work.
up, I come from a very cushiony, not financially, very cushiony like love and ease of life background.
Idealistic childhood.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I never really cared to deal with people who had things going on.
Right.
I was just like, I saw it as drama, which is obviously not healthy.
Right.
I was more of like,
Wait, what do you mean by stuff going on?
So like
if you have issues in life, like if you have serious,
right.
like say, family issues or trust issues, or you know you've had a tough upbringing.
which is also
I
for me.
I always felt bad for those people,
Right.
and I would be there for them, but I
didn't have-
never allowed it to impact me. I was like, okay, I'm not letting that
Right.
impact my day to day. And if a woman in the past had shown that to me, I'd just be like, okay, you're not for me because I want like a quote unquote drama free life, which is not a real thing.
Right.
Because I wasn't emotionally evolved. So during the breakup, I was like, okay, I need to really learn how to be emotionally intelligent and like mature.
Did
and,
you
like,
think was that for yourself or for her?
for
like,
me?
with her
For
back?
me,
Okay.
no, I was just like, I was like, I want to be like a real man. Like a real
Right.
man is not someone who's just like, oh, fuck your emotions. Like that's
Right.
not real. So I was like, I need to really change. And then I think you could speak for yourself, but I think she needed to shed off some trauma of like, hey, I'm not the guy that did all these bad things to you in the past. Like it's not me. You can't
Right.
hold that
I
against
needed,
me.
yeah, I needed to work on myself. I think it's just as much, if not more, in some aspects, than you needed to work on yourself. And it was that acknowledgement of the fact that we had to, like, we both knew that we had to separate. We knew it was never, all we were going to do was burn it down to the
Right.
ground if we were going to stay together. And I think we both had enough respect and love for each other where we were like, fuck no, I can't do this.
Right.
And I think it was the fact that, and I always like preach this, I even preach this to like some friends who were kind of going through similar-ish situations where I'm like, baby, you have to have no contact.
Right.
Because you cannot try to heal in the same space that kind of broke you.
Right.
Or that you feel like broke you.
Right.
You've got to be able to move, like, separate yourself from it, really go inward again.
Right.
Figure your own shit out, live your life, love your life, and then what's meant to be will come your way.
Right. I love that. Do you know what I did, which I look back on and it's kind of embarrassing, but also I'm like, man, I was a badass. When my ex broke up with me, which was like kind of, I mean, looking back, right, there were so many signs, but in my mind in that moment, it was like blindsided and I didn't know how to handle my emotions. I didn't know how to like cope. So he breaks up. Well, we kind of have the initial talk and I'm like devastated. And then the next day he's like, I'm going to send you an email to like express my full feelings. And like, I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening. I'm in denial. Get the email, basically him breaking up with me in an email. And so he's like, call me after, whatever. 9 months. Do not answer his phone call. Do not answer his text. Do not, completely radio silence. So, but
you radio silenced him after the email.
Because I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm first off, I'm not okay. I need to take care of myself. He obviously he didn't ask me how I feel. He's just making his decision. So fuck you. And like, but I like, it sounds strong, but I also think it was like a coping mechanism because I felt like I had power. Because I was like, because he was like, then he had no closure. Because he's like, I just sent her an email and then we were together for 2 years and like never talked, like never got to officially have the breakup. Too. I was like, but it was great. I mean, in a messed up way where I was like holding on to this and he was texting me still. And I'm like, not answering. It's nice to be you.
That's great.
In a small way, it's kind of like a little bit vindictive, but
100% vindictive.
But almost in like a healthy way because it's like you're sitting there going to yourself, okay, well, I'm not going to feed into.
I knew
this
my
anymore.
worth. I feel like in a weird way, but even though I feel like I had a lot of work to do still, but maybe that, yeah.
It's like I feel like it's vindictive in a like if there even is such a thing in like a healthy way where you just go, okay, well, there's a little bit of power of going, okay, well, I'm not going to reply to the shit that you've written down to me, but like what you've just done and how you've just done it has shown me the path of which I want to walk.
Right.
And you're not included in that path. So I'm going to start that now by just completely cutting off contact and having absolutely nothing to do with it. Like he would sometimes reply to my like Instagram stories and the time that we were away. Not a fucking peep for me. Not a word.
You aren't accessible.
I was not accessible in any way, shape, or form, but it was, and again, it was tiny bit vindictive.
Right.
There was that element to it, and I cannot lie to myself that there's not. But it was more so to do with the fact that I was like, you know what, mate, love you, but also at the same time,
but what are we doing here?
I've got my own shit.
Right.
Again, don't need you, want you.
Right.
And I also kind of don't want you at the moment.
Right. You know? You're like, I'm having fun.
I'm living my fucking life, and I was, and that was the energy you're putting out, and so were you.
Right.
Like I said, you just come back together. And then we had our first official date afterwards. We went and had coffee.
Did you ask her?
He did.
Yeah. So I mean, as
he
men
did
do,
indeed.
you like envision how it's going to go, and I was like, oh, we had broken up in maybe like March, and my birthday was May 1st. So I was like, okay, this is going to be easy. And then May 1st, she's going to reach out because she's so nice for my birthday, and then I'll like play lovey-dovey, and then
Taurus.
Yeah.
I'm a Taurus too.
And then
are you? What are you? Sagittarius.
Okay, like Sagittarius.
And then I was just like, and then I'll feel it out. And then my birthday came, and she just said happy birthday.
Nothing
and
else.
That was it. And I like responded.
Yes, girl.
And I like responded with like, hey, like how are you doing? Blah blah blah. A couple of paragraphs, no answer. And I was like, shit, that did not go the way I thought it was going. And then after that, it was like another month, and I didn't know what to do because I was like, I kind of want to talk to her, but I can't reach out again. And then
Isn't it so funny the things you like?
So
yeah, and then I just swallowed my pride, and I was like, hey, like, can we get a coffee?
Right.
And she was like, yeah. And then she had this different beaming confidence, and I was like, oh, how are you? She's like, oh, I'm good. I'm moving back to Australia. I was like, what do you mean? Like that was the first thing she said to me. And I said, and like my heart, you know, you said you got nervous on the first date. I got super nervous. I was like, what do you mean you moved back to Australia? She's like, yeah, I packed up my bags. Like, I'm done. I'm moving back.
Agency.
And she had like a plane ticket and a date. And I was like, no, like we have to be together.
Oh. Do you say that?
Kind of, yeah.
I think it was just more so like he like literally you could see the visceral shock in his face. He was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, sweets. To be honest, like I'm done. Yeah, I'm done with my modeling career.
Right.
I don't want to do this anymore. And I had nothing left to keep me here in America. I have my best friends whom I adore, but like that's not enough to be able to keep me in a space that's away from my family. And we broke up, so there's no reason for me to stay here.
Right.
I remember you literally going, "But you can't." I was like, but I am.
Like, oh, he loves me.
And that was, I think that was the start of it. And then it was like, and then I remember us talking for the couple months after that, being like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I'm still moving back to Australia. Like, I'm not going to move. I'm not going to completely change my plans.
So you had 2 months here after you guys met up. You still had 2 more months until.
Well, I had I think it was about 3 months left of what was going
we met up
on.
in June, and she was moving back in September.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I have to take these 3 months or whatever it was to like really see if this is real.
Right.
And
you were hooked.
We got engaged right before she went back.
No.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then I decided that I'd come back and I went to Australia. We got engaged on like, I can't remember the date of it, but we got engaged, and then the next week I left to Australia, and then I was there for 3 months. And he was here.
Wow.
And so we were separated for it, and then we got married.
Now, do you and your partner, well, how about you? Do you start to think about when is this going to happen? Like, you're a year and a half in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's so funny because we're actually having these conversations right now. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's crazy because I've never been in a relationship where everyone around me is like, this is your person. Like everyone, like my family, my mom, and my parents my parents raised an independent girl. Like my parents like never, I mean, I was single for years and like never once were like, where's your boyfriend? Are you getting married? But like never pressured me, whatever, but met him and they're like, my mom's like, he's the one. And I was like, are you asking me or telling me? Like,
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And my parents are not like that at all.
Are you close with them?
Mm-hmm, very close.
And where are you guys from?
Michigan.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Where are you from?
New York.
Okay. East.
Very cool.
East.
We've already established where I'm from too.
Yeah. But I think like right now it's funny. And we're at an age now where it's like all of our friends are getting married, having babies. We had like 4 weddings last year. This month we had 2 weddings. So it's like a lot. And so everyone's questioning him. And so I think we're trying to figure it out.
And where is he from?
He's from Calabasas, from LA.
Oh, wow.
Which
nice.
also I thought was a red flag.
Why?
This is what it was. When I first moved to LA, I had some bad experiences with women, like LA women that were just like not nice people. And so I had in my head that like LA people are like jaded, not nice, and like backstabbing. And I think that's why.
Okay.
And then I just never, it's like funny. I mean, I don't know if you experienced it, but like LA guys are far and few in between. I felt when I was dating, like I don't know if I've ever, maybe a couple LA guys, but not a ton anyways. So, but yeah, no, he's great. Comes from, his family's in Calabasas, grew up in Calabasas. So.
Nice. What's Calabasas like?
We've driven through it a couple of times.
But he's not, Calabasas is like the Kardashians, but it's not, he grew up there his whole life. It's like, he went to Calabasas High, but it's not, he jokes
suburb.
about how him and his friends had like the worst cars in the, in the high school. That's why they all became friends, like they're all.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a beautiful suburb. It's like, what, from here?
It's nice.
45 minutes?
It's very family oriented.
Very family
It's really like,
I just went to Echo Park for the first time this weekend.
oh, what? First time? Wait, how long have you been here?
3 years.
3 years. We got to get him.
I'm trying.
We got to get him out.
I'm trying so
My-
hard.
You guys got to go to
My-
Venice and hang out with us.
Yeah, we haven't been in Venice a lot. I don't know
No,
why.
not really. Santa Monica more so than Venice, but yes, we'll
Venice is
definitely come.
great.
Now we have an excuse. Now we have a reason.
Yes.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like my boundaries go from El Segundo
Beverly Hills to Beverly Hills.
to Beverly Hills, and that's it.
We got to get you out. Yeah.
I've lived all over. I lived on all across the east side, and then up in the valley, on the west side, in Laguna Beach,
Right.
in
Well,
Orange County.
you're 12 years. It's like, isn't it crazy how you like know the city so well?
And then sometimes I feel like I know the city not at all. Like I'll be driving
Really?
through streets. I'm like, what the fuck? Where'd this come from?
Right.
And it's just wild. But I think that's the beauty of Los Angeles. But yeah, I will agree. It's like there's people. Sometimes you meet people here and you're like, mate, why are you so nasty? Like, what's the point of you being so nasty? And then you yourself kind of get this jaded view of the people who live here or people who have been here for a long time.
Right.
Because I always say like people are like, oh, fucking LA. I'm like, listen. LA, like everywhere, has its downfalls. But at the same time, why the fuck do we live here if we hate it so much?
Right.
I love our community. Like, and when I mean our community, I mean like people that we bring into like the podcast. Because big thing for me is I only want to associate myself with people who have the same, not dating mission as me, but like connection mission on being real and genuine and authentic. And it's been so beautiful forming my own little community in LA. And it's like everything else is whatever. I don't care.
That's the biggest thing is community. Like I feel like it took me 5 years. I met some good friends along the way that like still are close friends, but like it took me 5 solid years in LA to meet my like ride or die girlfriends, like my like best friends ever, and I have great friends back home too, but it takes time to at this age too. You're working, you have other things going on, life is happening. But LA's tough. But once you find that, you have to hold on to it because it's everything, especially if you're away from your family, you know, like you need that.
I feel like a lot of people here are away from their families, and to the fact to be able to find like a legitimate community, a family of friends, or friends of family, whatever the fuck it is really truly important. I know we're about to finish. Okay, so
Are we over time?
To wrap up.
Well, no, we're perfect on timing,
Okay.
but rapid fire.
Okay, let's go.
You read my mind, darling.
you know
So
what?
rapid fire, obviously you know what that means.
Right.
Quick short answers. So when you're not working, what are your favorite ways to unwind or spend your free time?
Hiking, going to the beach, hanging out with friends, concerts, festivals. Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Before you continue, I know it's rapid fire, but I'm going to interject.
Rude, but all right.
What do you feel about Runyon?
Oh, I love Runyon, but it's like
That's such a mixed answer already.
you
in
know,
motions.
because like it's become it's a lot. But I started going there so many when I first moved to LA. I would go literally 5 times a week. It was my favorite place. It was my church. I manifested my whole life and career at that mountain. Like I swear to you, that was like how I learned about just like prayer and manifestation, and like that mountain got me Hollywire and everything. Like, anyways, I love that mountain. I used to go all the time. It's just become it's a lot. It's like a scene.
Well,
But I'll go. I haven't gone in a while because I live in Venice now. But I would go and like, you know, when I go, it makes me happy.
probably the best response I could have asked for, because I go there twice a week, and I tell her I go for one group reason.
Oh.
Because I clear my head, I'm exercising, but I literally think about all my business ideas, and I think about
it's a magical
life.
mountain.
And I just go up the pavement, and I know exactly how much
All the
time
way
it's
to
going
left?
to take. All the way to the left. Yeah, I know
my
exactly
route.
how much time it's going to take, and I literally just think about everything. And I come down and I write all my notes down, and it's like, because of Runyon.
So I started going, but when that route all the way to the left wasn't even a route.
Okay.
My friend actually showed it to me. Like it was like bare. It was like grass still, and like not even. And so we started like going before anyone went that way.
Wow.
And now it's like an actual path, which is crazy. But I would do the same thing, and then on the way, I would go up and just kind of get your workout, and then on the way down, say out loud
That's awesome.
what your like hopes
Yeah,
and
I
dreams
love
are,
it.
and like whisper it, say out loud if there's people around, whatever. But like I swear, it's a very magical mountain for
Okay.
me. But I haven't been in a while.
Do I feel so vindicated right now?
You're like, I hate it.
It's not that I hate it. It's just also like I feel like there's so many other beautiful hikes in Los Angeles, but also
Right.
I get why he's going for the mental clarity reason, because it's actual legit exercise kind of.
Do you know what it's so great about it, which I loved about it too, is that it's quick.
So
It's an hour. Like you can literally do it. I would do it in an hour
exactly. I tell her,
or less.
I know it takes 1 hour.
Right.
If you go at a normal pace,
Right.
it's a half an hour up, half an hour down. So I'm like, me being so busy, I know exactly how much time it
Right.
takes, and I can kill all these birds with one stone. Just think, exercise,
Right.
manifest, be in nature, not be in nature, and then I'm done.
Okay, you're right. All right, fine. I concede. Runyon's amazing.
Wow, she put a kibosh
Now
on
you
it.
can high five.
All right, one thing on your bucket list.
I would love to. I'd love to take sometime in my life. I'd love to take like 3 to 6 months off, maybe a year, and just travel.
Love that.
Like with my boyfriend, husband at the time, whatever. Like I would just love to like. It's so opposite of like how I am, like being in LA, workaholic. Like I just think taking a year off and just like seeing the world, and
I love that.
I think that would be great.
Really beautiful for the mind, body, and soul in a lot of different ways. What is your ultimate act of self-care?
Meditation, probably meditation, breath work, like all that sort of like meditation type stuff. Yeah, definitely like self-development type stuff.
Love
like
that.
Yeah.
What's your love language?
Touch.
Really?
Yeah. So is my boyfriend's. And but then I also feel like quality time is up there too. But
Yeah.
definitely physical
Quality
touch.
time is one of mine.
Yeah.
Definitely. Maybe even the highest, I'm not sure. If you weren't in your current profession, what would you be doing?
I don't know exactly, but I think it would definitely be something with kids. I like love children and kids, and like I think it'd be fun, not fun, but probably really hard, but like to be like a child psychologist or work at like I feel like one of the thing I really want to do in this lifetime, well, one, I would love to like adopt eventually, but then also like work in an orphanage. Like I would love to like, I mean, it would be really sad, I'm sure, but like something about kids, I'm really drawn to.
Sad but beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
Of course, it would pull at your heartstrings, but it'd be such a worthwhile cause
Right.
to invest your time into. All right, last but not least, what inspires you most in life?
I feel like my friends and family. Like I feel like my family, I came from like a very humble beginning, and like, the reason why I worked so hard was because like, I wanted to have more and like provide for my family one day and all that stuff. And so they inspire me in that way. And then my group of friends here, they're just so like just beautiful people. They're always, you know, challenging themselves to be better people. And that really inspires me. That's on the personal side. And then I think also just like art, like I love art and music, anything in the arts is like inspiring.
I love it so much.
Yeah, for me.
Chelsea, thank you so much for being here today. This was so much fun.
So
Can you
much
please
fun.
let our audience know where to find you?
Yes, you can find me at Chelsea_Briggs on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all the things.
Awesome. This
Thanks,
was awesome.
guys.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I hope we could add you to our LA.
Yeah, come to
community.
Venice.
Yeah,
come
sure.
to West Side. We'll go
Yeah.
to the beach. We
can-
go to the
we can
Brig.
double date.
Yeah.
But not as a first date.
A double date, as they
I
say.
love it.
I love it so
it.
much.
Can't
All right,
wait.
darling.
Thanks, guys. You
Thank
did great.
you.
Great hosts.
Thank you.
These ones right here.